Alex, you got anything funny to say off the top? I know you like starting with some sort of
No,
dig
I
at
was
me.
gonna comment that you're like stretching, like you're
Mm,
ready for a big workout, but I was just gonna let it go and let you do it. But here we are.
no. But here you are. You brought it up anyway. Thanks. Well, welcome to Deep Cuts the Game, the movie trivia podcast where I give my three contestants three different movies, and they try to come up with the most random, obscure, or minor actors from those films. The deeper the cut, the more points they get. I'm your host, Jeff Penn, and with me, as always, a guy who still eats Lunchables, but now with chopsticks, Alex Young. Welcome to the show, Alex.
You know what I love the most about that one? It's so true.
Yep. And I know no one else can see it, but we're on like a 4-panel screen here. I was making dead eye contact with you while I said it because I wanted to see your reaction. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't stumble on that one.
Qualify that with, yes, they're Lunchables, but they're bootleg Lunchables. So they're my own crackers. It's deli meat and cheese that I cut up at home. So it's not like I'm spending $1,000 a month in Lunchables. It's assembled. I'm essentially cooking, but I do eat them with chopsticks, so I don't have to touch it. What up, Jeff? It's a weird way to start.
What up? What's a weird way to start talking about Lunchables? Or
yeah,
okay.
I mean, movie podcast. What are you doing?
Nothing. I can't think I've watched anything worth talking about since we spoke
because
last.
I got that covered.
Okay, good. Let me hear what you got.
So last night, it's on Criterion. There is a movie on Criterion Channel, not Criterion Collection. I want to specify that. Broadly, like the elevator pitch of this movie is like a bartender and a waitress team up to rob the restaurant that they work at, or the very fancy bar they work at. He's British and needs a visa, and she just needs money, so they make a deal. It's called the Linguini incident.
Oh, is that the David Bowie one?
Yes.
Yeah, it popped up. Someone had posted about that on Blue Sky today, and I was like, how do I not know about this movie? Because what year is it from?
1991.
Yeah, so how do I not know about this?
Let me run you this cast, Jeff. I think it's one of those weird indie movies that, because it's described on the Criterion Channel as Lost and Found, so I think it's one of those things that probably to the festival circuit, probably to a limited theatrical run, and then just disappeared into obscurity. And the version they have up is a director's cut that actually seems a little bit shorter than the theatrical one, but it is surprisingly fun. It's a charming movie, but it is a pretty deep cast.
Because it's Bowie and one of the Arquettes,
Rosanna Arquette. They're the leads. He's the Brit in need of a visa.
Sure.
But you also have as the two guys who own the bar that are obsessive gamblers.
Okay, don't tell me. Can I guess? Sure. I haven't looked, other than I saw the...
Sure.
Give me Joey Pants and Danny Aiello.
No. Actually, you're pretty close on Danny Aiello, but no. It is Andre Gregory from My Dinner with Andre, and he's John the Baptist in Last Temptation of Christ, and Buck Henry from Get Smart. Who reminds me so much of Jack Lemmon in this movie. But then as the hostess is Marlee Maitland.
Okay.
With a sign language interpreter.
Okay.
Which seems like maybe don't make her the hostess. Moira Tierney has 2 lines. She doesn't even have a close-up. She's
so
just
Moira Tierney from News Radio, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's just supporting character. James Avery has 1 line at the not the DMV, but essentially a government office.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Uncle Phil.
Only in wides, has a throwaway line about Vegas. And my deep cut would be Mimi from the Drew Carey Show. Is auditioning for something that is very vague, and she just sings a song on stage. Kathy Kinney is her name.
Kathy Kinney, that is her name. Yeah, I have not seen her in a long time, though she may look entirely different for all I know without all the makeup.
I mean, in this, she essentially looks like Mimi. She's
I think I heard
less eyeliner, but you instantly recognize her.
I think I heard something once about her where she her agent, she was about to lose a bunch of weight, and her agent's don't bother. You're getting cast because of how you look. If you lose 60 pounds, you're just not going to get cast anymore. Kind of
Jonah Hill.
What's that guy? Ethan Suplee from Mallrats and stuff like that. He lost a ton of weight and is a beefcake now, but I don't think he gets cast in anything. He was almost better off being Ethan Suplee. That's all.
And the last thing I want to say about the movie, Jeff, no linguine.
Disappointing.
There's no pasta. There's a lot of food talk in it. Marshmallows, breakfast, really weird breadsticks, but there is absolutely no pasta at all. No ramen, no other carbs. It's so weird. I don't know why it's called the Linguini incident. Anyway.
Well, thanks for bringing that bit of information to me, Alex. We've got a very fun show tonight. We have one returning player, and he is bringing with him a co-host of his podcast, their podcast, I should say. We have Tommy and Tim from Haven't Seen It, the podcast where one of them hasn't seen it. Tim, Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us back.
Thanks for
Tim's first time.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm a little bit intimidated right now because I feel like my brain forgets names of actors and actresses all the time, and I'm gonna have like if you listen to a lot of our shows, there's times where I will just be like, what's the name of that guy? And I just
the main actor in this, and I'm like, Tim, it's that. It's like, oh, I'm sorry.
I think I was listening to your episode today where you were doing Interstellar, and you were talking about movies you had recently just watched or watched again, and I think you were talking about She's Out of My League, and you said Jay Baruchel the first time, but then the second time it was like Jay Barron or something like that, and I was like, I mean, it happens. Like we've had people, like I think our friend Dean was on, and he was trying to say Jay Baruchel. And 9 times out of 10, he said it completely wrong.
There's been times where I'm going on like 3 repeats of names, and Tommy's just like, Tim, you have the name entirely wrong.
I do like a self-correct in the middle of like us recording. I'm like, Tim knows this. Come on.
The good thing about this show is we let you get away with not knowing the person's name. If you can tell me something else they were in and give us or even just a reasonable physical description of them, sometimes we will give it to you. If it's kind of a weird character.
We even gave it to Dean with an unreasonable physical description.
Yeah, was he?
It was real vague, and we're like, all right, you're gonna.
Yeah, close enough. Yeah, we had one where someone was trying to describe David Keith, and they mentioned that he had a gap in his tooth, and he had a distinctive voice, and I was like, good enough for me. I get it. Well, we're excited to have you on. So I know it's a little weird because you're both kind of promoting the same thing here at the same time, so I don't want you to having to step on each other. So why don't I say, Tim, why don't you tell us about your podcast?
Yeah, so I mean, it started. We're coming up on 3 years now of doing the podcast, and I basically went to Tommy and I said, why don't we? I always felt like we just had really great banter with each other. We both love movies. Let's start a podcast. And then our first episode was Home Alone 2. Lost in New York, because Tommy's never seen it, and it's like the worst podcast you could ever listen to. I remember
we were rough at first.
Like I've told people like, I have this podcast, and then they'll be like, I listened to it. I'm like, did you listen to the first episode? They're like,
don't start there. Yeah,
please,
no.
It's only up there.
Go to the middle.
Go somewhere in the middle. Find a movie that you like. But I just trying to think of like an idea for a movie, and it's like, it's a good way for us to, how everybody has their queue of movies, right? That list. That never-ending list of movies that they're like, I want to watch it, but I haven't watched it. Well, now we're going to be kind of like punching at each other's movies that we haven't seen. Like
we're both shocked, and we're like, oh my god! Like I made Tim watch Scream. He made me watch Godfather. So equally comparable movies, obviously.
I mean,
arguably, yes, they are both excellent for.
Yes, I would say
thank you.
Scream is an excellent horror film, and The Godfather is an excellent film. So it would be one thing if you made him watch, some awful slasher film, and you're like, what, you haven't
seen? I have.
Yeah.
Well, we did the Evil Dead 2013 remake, and like I'm not the biggest horror fan, but I love Evil Dead 1 and 2 a lot, and Army of Darkness we covered. I thought was great. Like I just love that silliness, and felt like Evil Dead remake just took away from that tone and was just generic horror movie, and I did not like that about it.
I really enjoyed that movie. That's the Fede Alvarez remake, right? I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was a good time.
Tim was just like, why are we covering this shit? I didn't care about any of the characters, like the movie stuff. I was like, dude, I love this movie. What are you talking about? So that's the kind of banter we have. And sometimes it's like, oh god, like I have to watch like The Godfather Part 2 right now. 3 hours. Like we just watched covered Gladiator for the podcast. Great movie. I'm glad I watched it, but at the same time I was like, I'm finally got to watch this 3-hour movie I've been putting off for so long. That's it for me. Or Tim, it's just I don't want to watch harder shit.
Now, I've gotten better at horror movies. I can watch them now, and it's like pulling like weird. Like I made him watch Nashville. Like I love that movie.
Yeah,
and just making Tommy watch all these random movies that I like and movies he likes, and then the ones we just haven't seen in our.
Now, Tommy. So, would you any idea of like who has? Is it a 50-50, do you think? You guys going back and forth, like I haven't seen it one week and you haven't seen it the next week? Or
No.
Okay.
Tommy's more the organized one of the two of us who just
Yeah.
like gives us a list
I'll
of good
just
movies.
I'll just say like, hey, this movie's coming out if it's like 10th anniversary. I've never seen it, or Tim, you've never seen it. Like sometimes we cover like Kindergarten Cop recently because I think that celebrated an anniversary.
It's like
And that's why
25th or 30th, 35th, something like that.
It's probably
Yeah,
35. Yeah.
And then we covered Interstellar because like oh, the 10th anniversary. I haven't seen it. Whereas Tim will be like, okay, yeah. Sometimes Tim will be like, yo, I just watched 12 Angry Men. We should cover that. And that's also what happens to me too. Like, I'll watch a movie like while like working like remotely, and then like also be like, Tim, have you ever seen this like movie, like random fucking ass cop movie? He's like, no. All right, we're covering it. He's like, okay, I guess.
Tommy sent me the best text the other day where he just goes, I just watched Blues Brothers for the first time. And like, for me, that's like a definitive like 6th, 7th grade movie. Like one of those like movies that made me realize how much I like love musicals and like musical comedies and just like how great those can actually be. And then Tommy texted me that and I'm like, well, you're going to pretend that you didn't watch it a month ago because we're going to cover it on the podcast. I thought he had seen it. Like, it just seems like something in his vernacular, and that's the nice thing.
It should have been.
We discover movies that, like, we find that we like a lot of movies that maybe we thought we wouldn't enjoy, and like I enjoy horror movies now versus when I started the podcast. I will say that for a fact.
Just not Dracula.
No.
So you guys did just do Interstellar. That's your most recent episode, which is funny because Tommy, so the week you were on with us, I'm looking at my numbers here, our episode 13, which you won with a very high score of 94 points, which is actually still in the top 5 of all-time points scored. Now, I think we served you up a couple softballs because I think we threw you Dazed and Confused and Hot Fuzz, which were two of your favorite movies of all time. But it's funny, the week before you were on, we had actually done Interstellar as one of our movies, because that was honestly the movie that kind of kicked off the idea of deep cuts, because it, like you mentioned in your podcast, it is such a deep cast. Everything from like Topher Grace with a very small part to like Timothy Chalamet growing up to be Casey Affleck for no reason. And then you throw in guys like William Devane and Wes Bentley just sitting around for like 4 seconds in a scene. And I'm like, this movie's so super deep. And so I listened to your show, and the one thing, I did not look it up again. You mentioned the woman from Silence of the Lambs is like a nurse in it for some reason. Like she's just there for one line. Someone had posted a thing, and I'm sure he went into depth a lot more than what I'm going to remember from it. But he's like, if you watch that movie again, watch it as though Matthew McConaughey is dead the entire time. Because the movie opens with him crashing a jet or something like that. So if you kind of go in with the idea that he is dead and he's going kind of through like the different levels of like purgatory and acceptance and all these different things. And at the end, when he gets to his daughter, Murph, he's actually dead. Because Alex and I think have discussed it. It's like, it's really weird that he gets there and all her family comes in to say goodbye to her, but nobody bothers to say hi to him, even though he's essentially like their grandfather or great grandfather. Like, nobody gives a rat's ass.
I'm sure they don't know that. Like, everyone assumes he's very dead for
Sure, but you think she would have told them about him? Like, hey, we're all alive because your great grandfather sacrificed himself.
So I noticed this in that cut. That first cut of the plane going down is, I think, the same one when they crash on the water planet.
Yep.
So I think the way you could interpret it is that they die on the water planet. They don't get up, and the rest of it is going through that. I actually kind of like that theory because it did have my. I didn't love the ending.
You didn't love the ending, so that kind of gives it a different kind of level.
And people love it apparently, but I was like, well, I can suspend disbelief in a lot of situations, but when he's just like floating in Saturn, and it's just, I'm like, isn't that like the whole point? Like, if you drift off the International Space Station, you're dead.
That's what happened to George Clooney.
I mean, you got like 30 seconds.
That is what happened to George Clooney. Well, no, he's in a spacesuit though. He's not just like
he's
not just a foot.
Well, he just went through a black hole and entered the 5th dimension. So I mean, it's also
we got to suspend.
He's fine.
I get
some disbelief. Black holes don't look like that. 0 out of 5.
Will say I thought of your podcast because we did King of Comedy, and then the next episode we did was Blue Velvet, and rewatching that. The aunt in that, like Kyle MacLachlan's aunt that's in the house with him, is the grandmother that is also in Happy Gilmore. Like that's the
Oh,
main.
the old,
really?
The old lady.
Happy
Like one of the old
Gilmore's-
ladies sitting in the basement. There is the grandma in Happy Gilmore. And I was just sitting there watching. I was like, this is exactly what Deep Cuts is, because that's a deep
Exactly.
cut.
Yeah.
That's well, it's like that movie's just full of. That'd be great for your show too, because like there's one scene where like Brad Dourif, Chucky himself, is just in Dennis Hopper's gang. It's like, wait, what? What's Brad Dourif doing here?
Jack Nance just shows up for like a hot
Yeah.
minute. I mean, classic David Lynch, right? But
Well, we're very excited to have you both here with us. And I'm not going to tell you what the movies are yet. So the first thing we got to do, though, is we got to decide who's going first, second, or third. So we always start with a little game called What Movie Am I Thinking Of? So, Tim, since it's your first time on the show, I'm going to ask you, what movie am I thinking of?
do I get a hint or
No.
ask a question? Is this 20
Nothing.
questions, or is it
Nothing.
just-
Nothing. Because I feel if I give a hint, then everyone kind of guesses around the same area, and it's a lot harder to decide who won. Like if I say it's a crime film, everyone says something with cops in it or something like that, and I was like, well, I don't know. You're all pretty close. So I think it's safer for me as a judge to give you no hints.
I respect that. I'm going to go Minority Report.
All right. All right.
Yes.
All right. Alex. Oh, sorry. Tommy, what is your guess?
Blue Steel.
Blue Steel. Is that the Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yeah, Catherine Bigelow directed. Great movie.
Oh, okay. Alex, what movie am I thinking of?
Mine like also involves cops, I guess, like all the other two. But it is Detective Pikachu.
Thanks.
He is a cop.
He is a cop.
I mean, there's no cops in my movie. I don't know why everyone went for cops, but who directed Minority Report?
Isn't
Who
that
directed? Steven
Spielberg.
Spielberg. Okay, no,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
I was hoping that maybe it was a director. Okay, so I picked this one because you guys are doing Gladiators, your next movie, and you're going to do Gladiator 2. I think you mentioned seeing that. It is not as good as either one of those movies. It is Legend.
You fucking love Legend,
Ooh.
man. God damn.
Yeah.
Alex, I
I've
don't
heard
love it
about it.
anymore. I loved it when I was a kid. I tried watching it like in the last 5 years, and it's very, very bad.
So let me say this. My favorite thing that happened, this was like probably 10 years ago. You pitched me Legend, and you sold the shit out of it.
Well,
Like,
go ahead.
but like from your perspective, you're like, it's directed by Ridley Scott. It's written by so-and-so. It's starring Tom Cruise. It's got Mia Sara in it. And Tim Curry's the devil. And I'm like, what the fuck? This movie sounds awesome. It's not.
Yeah. Like the
It's
scores,
awful.
like, now it's awful. It is awful now.
There's
Like
so many bubbles. And the
dream
glitter
sequences.
budget must have been $100,000.
Now,
just
that
for
being
glitter.
said, if you could just watch the Tim Curry scenes and only those, I think it's worth watching because Tim Curry's
He's awesome.
incredible. And it's one of the best devil like makeup jobs. Like the practical effects on his makeup for the devil are, I mean, I haven't watched it in a while, but I think they still hold up. So, Alex, I'm going to go with you because I think yours possesses the most fantasy with Detective Pikachu.
Great.
So would you like to go first, second, or third?
I mean, Charizard is essentially the devil, so I guess that's right. I'll go third. I'll take my Yush.
Alex is going third, and I'm going to go with Tim. You get to choose if you'd like to go first or second, because I think
I want to go second. I want to see.
Okay. That's safe. It's a
I
safe.
kind of want to throw Tommy out to sea first.
Yeah.
and then
Throw me in
we'll
the fire.
So what happens is Tommy will go first, Tim, you'll go second, then Alex will have 2 picks, and then we'll work our way back and forth, kind of like a little snake draft here. So now you get to find out what are the 3 movies. And because I didn't ask you like last time, Tommy, when you're on, I asked you what were your favorite movies, and so I wanted to kind of deal from within that. I haven't done that for you this time, but I did pick from movies that I know you have seen because you have featured them on your podcast. 2 of them anyway. The third one, I felt a little bad for Alex because he maybe hasn't watched these movies in the past year or 2. So I wanted to pick something I knew he had watched at some point. So, and because we're also doing a bit of a November noir, 2 of these films at least are noir-ish. So from 2001, Training Day. From 1995, Heat. Both of these films featured in Haven't Seen It, the podcast, I believe at the start of this most recent season that you guys did, if I'm not mistaken. And then the third movie, for my buddy Alex, just so he doesn't cry tomorrow, from 2002, Spider-Man.
Oh, great. All right.
Now, while you guys think about writing down some actors and actresses who you might think are good deep cuts for this, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
Turn your dial to find the frequency of the past.
Captain Midnight.
Where the classic stories of mysteries, sci-fi, thrillers, and suspense are found waiting to be heard once again.
Another case for Nick Carter, Master Detective.
You'll find a variety of those stories here, in their original form, where each episode takes you to another place or time.
The Man of Bronze, Doc Savage.
But only when you find the mystery frequency. Available everywhere.
The Shadow knows.
Write down as many as you can, because someone will surely steal the one that you think is the best deep cut.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Alex?
Yep, every time. Every goddamn time.
And I will tell you this, if you have a really good deep cut, use it right away. Don't be like our friends who like give us one and then someone takes their deep one. They're like, oh, I was going to say that one later. I'm like, why would you save that for later? It's like a 15-point deep cut. Get it, yeah.
Oh, this is not going good for me. Okay.
I've got a good list for only one of these movies. I have one name under Heat, and I got nothing for Training Day.
I also have one. I also have one name under
2
Heat.
for Heat or 3 for Heat.
I'm blending Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 together right now,
Don't
and
do that.
I'm trying to
do that.
remember, because the most recent Spider-Man I have seen from the Raimi trilogy has been Spider-Man 2.
I watched all of them recently, like earlier this year.
I can't
Theaters.
remember, because there's so many. Like Spider-Man 2 is like a cameo's
Totally.
wet dream.
Now, Heat has the deepest cast.
For sure.
And not even just like, oh, these are a bunch of like nobodies that you haven't heard of. Like you get down to the bottom and you're like, oh, I know who that. Like most of the time I have to like write the person's name and then I write something else they're in. Kind of like the old woman from Blue Velvet who's in Happy Gilmore. Yeah. I would have written like Happy Gilmore, and I would have written episode of Seinfeld with Marble Rye. Like I think that's her as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, most of these people, I'll just say their name and you'll be like, yep, I know who that is.
Any crossovers, Jeff?
Yes. There is one person who appears in more than one film. If you say this person, you will get the points for both movies. Points range from 1 to about 20. If you manage to pick someone that I haven't written down for some reason, that usually means they're a 20-pointer. If I look them up and I say, yep, they were in it, 20 points. I don't think I've left anyone off. So, like I said, one person who crosses over, it's a pretty good crossover. If you say it, it's worth quite a few points. But to me, it's not obvious. Not obvious at all. All right. Tommy, how you feeling?
Pretty good.
Okay. All right, Tommy, we're going to put you on the clock. Your pick number 1. What is your deepest cut?
If I'm correct, in Spider-Man, it's Macy Gray that plays at the parade.
Yeah.
Well
what else you got there, Tommy? Because she's also in Training Day.
Fuck off.
Oh, fuck yeah. All right. So yeah, that's fine.
So she is 12 points for Spider-Man is the musical act that's performing at the parade. I don't know her role in Training Day. She's somebody in Training Day, so she's worth 10 points there. So she is worth 22 points right off the bat for Tommy.
Let's go.
22
well, everyone,
points.
that concludes another episode of Deep Cuts. Thanks for listening. You can find us on your favorite.
How did you do that?
platforms.
I knew that she was at Spider-Man. I didn't know she was in Training Day.
That was very clearly my next one coming up here. No.
All right, Tim. So you're on the clock. What is your first deep cut?
So I only have one for Spider-Man 1 because I'm just like blanking my brain here. I have Joe Manganiello.
Shit. Yes, he's Flash Thompson.
So he's Flash Thompson in that. He's the guy who's in like Magic Mike. I'm a How I Met Your Mother fan. I know he's like a bit character in that. He does
wasn't
that
he
famous
married
to Sofia Vergara.
Yep. So he's worth 8 points.
Okay, I will take that.
He's a little more famous actor-wise than Macy Gray was, and he's got that nice fight scene in the cafeteria, which you always see the Someone's always got the
I would
meme.
be afraid of me too.
Yeah, where like Spider-Man Peter Parker catches the stuff on the tray, and people are like, what is it? Tobey Maguire did his own stunts for this, and he did this all on just 100 takes or something like that. And it's like, shut up, he did not.
He did. It's a practical effect.
No fucking way.
Yeah, man. There's glue on the tray. And
really?
Yes, that's a famous thing. That was like literally going to be my next little fact, and you're like, here's some bullshit. I'm like, no.
I thought it was bullshit. Well, it's still a good fact. I thought it was bullshit. So congratulations, Tobey Maguire. You caught a bunch of stuff on a tray.
You win an opportunity to be on the next Deep Cuts.
Alex, you have 2 picks in a row here. Your first and your second Deep Cuts.
I'm going to take the same scene. I got 2 guys in the same scene together.
Okay.
I will take, speaking of Evil Dead, before we started, Bruce Campbell.
Yep.
Classic.
Bruce Campbell for 10 points because he is famously in all 3 of the first Spider-Man movies, if I'm not mistaken. So 10 points for Bruce Campbell.
And I will also take Macho Man Randy Savage as Bonesaw.
Oh.
Bonesaw, yes. Macho Man Randy
You're
Savage.
going nowhere.
Bonesaw is ready.
For 12 points as well. That's very solid. Alex, 12 points and 10 points. It's as many points as Tommy got on his first one. So
on a single guess, like a son of a bitch.
Yeah. All right, Tim, we're back to you with Deep Cut number 2.
Okay, so I don't know how to do this one, but this one came from a meme I saw after I saw Training Day. I saw this one popped up. There is a guy, he's a larger Hispanic man who has the goatee, and apparently he is in like 7 of these kind of movies, and they're all named Hector. Like that's the name of the character in it. He's one of the guys that takes Ethan Hawke into the bathroom when they're doing with the wallet situation in there. Like he's one of those guys. He's been in these things. I saw this as a meme. Everybody's pulling really deep cuts here. I went with Angelello as my first one. I'm like, this is my deepest cut. I'm throwing this one out here. This is what I got here. I do not know this gentleman's name. He's a very fine actor, but I believe he's Hector.
I think I know who you're talking about. There's a couple of guys in that scene. I'm gonna go look and see if I can find someone.
Okay, I really hope it's Hector. By the way,
I do now know who Macy Gray. Macy Gray is like 8th build in Training Day on IMDb for some reason, and she's just listed as Sandman's wife, but I don't see Sandman listed anywhere here.
That's
so I don't know.
3, Jeff.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. She's in all of them.
Well played.
Campbell.
Okay, so Tim, do you think his name is Hector in this film as well?
I believe so. That was like the joke that he's been the character named Hector in like 6 or 7 films. It's just what this guy.
Okay, I'm gonna. There's 2 guys here that I'm just gonna look at. Yeah, his name is Hector in the Fast and the Furious. So I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah, he gets it.
His name is Noel Guglielmi, and if you saw him, you'd be like, yeah, I recognize that guy. But once again, you don't know anything he's from. Most famous for The Fast and the Furious, Street Kings, Training Day, and one of my favorites, Dragged Across Concrete. With
this is definitely the guy I'm thinking of. Then, I was like,
bald head.
I didn't want to come across as like offensive, but I was also like, well, I need to get a real deep cut here. Otherwise, people are going to be listening.
What's the deepest thing I can think of?
What is the deepest thing I can think of?
He's worth 15 points, so that's a very deep cut. Well done. Tommy, we're back to you with deep cuts number 2 and number 3.
All right. So for Train Day, I'm going with Terry Crews. He's one of the extras. So he's in the background.
Yes, he is. It's like one of his first, I think, acting appearances. Like he's just listed as like gang member
in the background.
Yeah.
Right when they go to the apartment complex, right?
No, I think it's outside when he does like the King Kong ain't got nothing on me speech.
Oh,
that's Crews in the background. Yeah. You're like, oh shit, it's Terry Crews.
Okay, so Terry Crews for 15 points.
Son of a bitch.
Alex, this is what happens when we get like movie people on the podcast. Like normally we're just like pulling from our friends and stuff like that, and they're like, I don't know, is like Michael J. Fox in the Back to the Future movies? They're like, yeah, you're right. Congratulations, 1 point.
You got such a deep cut.
Cut these guys. Let's cut Greg. I want only Jess Taylors always.
Yeah.
Is Willem Dafoe in Spider-Man?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I'm gonna write that one down for later.
Tommy, you have one more deep cut here for your picking.
All right. So for Heat, I'm going with Buffalo Bill himself, Ted Levine.
Ted
He's
Levine,
one of the cops.
I had that written down.
not as deep as some of your others, but still a solid one for 10 points for Ted Levine. Tommy having a hell of a game here. Tim, back to you for your third deep cut.
All right, so I'm gonna. This one's not gonna be the deepest cut, but this is personal for me. This is Hank Azaria in Heat, famously in the scene where he's got a great ass,
Yes.
right, sitting right there. I understand it's not the biggest deep cut, but he is a Mets fan. I'm a Mets fan. I'm a big Simpsons guy, especially early season Simpsons, and most people did not recognize that they were watching Heat. And he was there. He's also on a great little show called Brockmire. I don't know if you...
Yeah, is that where he's like the radio host, or he's the sports broadcaster, right?
Sports broadcaster whose wife cheats on him and he has a meltdown on air, and then he has to go to like single A ball to like the worst club ever.
Yeah.
And he's just like this alcoholic sports broadcaster. Like, I just loved that show. I thought it was like just a cute little comedy show, and I have to rep my guy here. And he's a big Mets fan. I'm a big Mets fan.
He's worth 10 points. And you know what sucks about him, like going off the like Brockmire, that character, having that meltdown and then having to go to like single A baseball, is that is still a job I would kill for.
Oh yeah,
right. Like he's been like, oh, I've had to go all the way down to single A baseball. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like awesome.
That sounds cool.
I did do like a sports comm class in college, and we had like a single or double A guy come in, and he was like, yeah, you make like $7,000 for doing the season, because it's all about just getting your reputation. I mean, it would be a sweet job to have, but it's not
not the rest of your life kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Alex, we're back. Sorry,
the Hank Azaria vehicle that I like a lot, that I feel like is underrated, is Huff, the HBO series that he had for a while, where he was like a psychiatrist.
I
That was really good.
I thought you were going to say Mystery Men, Alex, where he's the Blue Raj.
No, if we're going to movies, it's the Birdcage, far and away. He steals that whole movie as Agador Spartacus.
All right, Alex, you have your third deep cut, and then I'm going to give you all a points breakdown.
Okay, I'm going to take Ted Raimi from Spider-Man.
Of course you are. I'm surprised you didn't start there, but yeah, I mean, he's pretty well known that he is always in his brother's films, so he is worth 10 points, Alex. So at the halfway point, Alex, you have 32 points, very solid. Tim, you have 33 points, even more solid. Tommy,
marginally more solid.
47 points at the halfway point.
Let's go.
It's not going to end that way. That's all I'm going to say, Alex. I feel third place coming down. I had my
gap
one.
Is going to get wider and wider between us.
I had my one deep cut here.
I will say Tommy is at the halfway point. He is halfway to his point total of 94 from his first appearance. Now, it will be tough to do because you did pull a 22 on your first pick here. And I don't think there's any more of those for you to grab.
Oh, I have one more deep cut.
Oh, okay. Alex, before we get back to him, though, let's try to steal it so he doesn't embarrass you too badly. What is your fourth deep cut?
Well, I feel like he's not going to be a ton of points, but maybe he's okay. In Spider-Man is, of course, Stan Lee.
Stan Lee, famously in pretty much every Marvel movie. And so we've got him kind of capped at the 10-point mark, because, yes, it's a small role, but we all know. It's like having Alfred Hitchcock in his own films. We all know
we do
there.
regularly forget in Marvel things. It's one of those ones where you're like, oh, fuck, of course. Like, why didn't I just say that instead of Tobey Maguire? Come on.
It's also not the... it's also like one of those movies where... you don't think of those movies in the way we now think of Marvel movies.
Yes.
Like, back then it was just like, it's a Spider-Man movie. Now it's a Marvel movie. And it's like...
Yes.
It's a weird imbalance on it.
Uh-oh. Tommy thought of something, or is thinking of something, because somebody said something, and it's cued him. That's why you got to be careful what you say.
I just had like a Jimmy Neutron brain blast thing where my brain freeze. Immediately was like, "Fuck!" Like I just got a deep cut in the back of my head.
If I say the wrong name, do I just lose my guess? Or
I mean, if you.
I just want to talk this out because I'm very blurring the lines of Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2.
Okay, don't say anything yet, because we've had this where someone will start talking about something, and then you see another person's eyes light up.
Like what just happened with Tommy?
Yeah, Tommy, something just hit Tommy in the brain pan, and he's got like a super deep cut now. Tommy, do you want to use it here for your fourth deep cut, or are you going to hold on to it?
I might as well just get out of the way now. So the woman who signs up Peter Parker to the wrestling contest in Spider-Man is Octavia Spencer.
She is. She is.
Well,
She's like,
it's all over, everybody.
aren't you a little small or a little scrawny or something like
Yeah,
that? Is
yeah.
her line? Yeah, I didn't know that's what her part, because she's just listed as like concession or check-in girl or something like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even clue in that was her in that scene. The very famous Octavia Spencer is worth 15 points because we all forgot who she was in that movie. And yeah, well done. Yeah, Alex, maybe it wasn't even your bone saw that got him there. It was something else. So you can't even take partial credit for it.
It was just me talking about Marvel movies, which is weird.
I think it's her in Marvel. Then also I started thinking about Spider-Man, and I was like, oh shit, Octavia Spencer's in this movie.
All right, Tim. So to answer your question, yeah, if you say a name and it's completely wrong, yeah, you get an X. But if you start talking about something, we will try to help guide you there.
Okay, there is in the Spider-Man, and I can't remember.
Wait, is it Tim's turn?
Sorry.
I said, just tell me one more guess.
I skipped. I'm out of order.
I was going to say, I thought we skipped him. Tommy, I'm like, I'm honestly only half paying attention.
Well, that's so weird because I definitely clearly had Octavia Spencer.
Yeah. You know what it is? Tim and Tom are such not confusing names, but they're like
similar.
You got to call him Tommy. He's Tommy.
Because I looked at it and I was like, oh, that only gives him 4. I thought he was running away with this, and I had the points wrong. So we're gonna put
amateur hour here, Jeff.
Tom with oh my god, I'm just it's having other.
You know what? It's fine. I don't mind getting skipped over because I was obviously going to guess Octavia Spencer, but maybe let me see. There is a comedian that is famously featured. He was big on Opie and Anthony as a guest.
Yeah, dude, well done.
Are we?
You're good. You're good. Okay, I'm gonna give you. It's Jim Norton.
Yes. Norton. Okay. I just wanted to talk that out.
Because also worth 15 points. So Octavia Spencer, Jim Norton, you got it.
Because I couldn't remember if he was that one. Because I know also Joey Diaz, the comedian, is in Spider-Man 2. He's on the subway. He's on like carefully. He's a hero. He's like one of the guys on the subway, lifting him up there. So just like, but I couldn't remember because I just remember it was him on the back of the news truck being like, "That Spider-Man's a punk." And I just couldn't remember which Spider-Man movie it was from.
Well done. I didn't know if anyone would get Jim Norton, but that's a good deep cut. Okay, so Tommy, you got Octavia Spencer, but you do get one more now. Your 5th deep cut.
I just gotta go with Jim Norton. Damn, threw me off. Definitely threw me off there for a second. All right, so I'm gonna go with in Heat. This is probably not that big of a deep cut, but Tom Sizemore, he's on the crew. He's also in the movie Blue Steel I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So. Tom Sizemore, he's worth 4 points, unfortunately.
Oh,
so he's like you said, he's part of the crew. I think he's like 4th build in the movie, 4th or 5th build.
And this is based off of billing, right?
Not necessarily. Like I try to, as much as I can remember, like how big of a part they had in the film. If they're like, Octavia Spencer. Like, hey, you guys just did Interstellar. Like, sure, Matt Damon's going to be credited way, way, way down. But if you've seen Interstellar, you don't forget that Matt Damon was in it. Yeah. So he's worth like, he's worth like 8 points, even though he's like potentially uncredited or like way, way down at the bottom. Whereas Tom Sizemore, not a big star anymore, kind of thing, but did have a big part in this movie. And in like mid '90s, Tom Sizemore was. Well, not a big
everywhere.
deal. He was everywhere.
He was a good support guy in a lot of those movies. I'm going to follow Tommy and Heat here, and I'm going to test this theory of like star power versus billing and impact in the story because this is Natalie Portman coming off Leon the Professional here. This is one of those ones where. And I don't know how the points are going to be added up here, because I know Heat was supposed to be a mini series and then it was cut into a movie where it feels like her part of that narrative was definitely slashed a little bit and it was probably more fleshed out if you watched like a full cut of Heat. Works for editing and pacing and things, but I think that would be a fairly decent cut. Very young Natalie.
Yes, she's worth more than Tom Sizemore. She is worth 8 points because yes, she is obviously a much bigger star now than Tom Sizemore ever was, but obviously also had a much smaller part. And I think a lot of people might even forget that she was in that movie because when you think about Natalie Portman, that's not one of the movies like you said. You might think Leon the Professional.
Home is Where the Heart Is, Jeff. The Walmart movie, that's the one you think of, where she lives in a Walmart overnight.
Of course. Yeah, I'm so pissed off because I actually wrote down Natalie Portman also, and I thought like, oh, Tom Sizemore's probably gonna give me more points.
He was such a bigger part of that movie, Tommy.
Yeah, but I was thinking Tom Sizemore is more of a name to pull than Natalie Portman.
That's fair. I see the logic there for sure.
Yeah, well, it's my game. You can all shut up. Alex, you have your fifth and final deep cuts here. What is number 5?
Okay, so number 5, also from Spider-Man, is my last one from Spider-Man. I am a little worried, like Tommy, that I might be pulling from Spider-Man 2. But I'm gonna risk it, because at this point, what the fuck do I have to lose? Elizabeth Banks. Is she Betty Brant in the first one?
Yeah,
Great
she is.
one.
Yeah,
Great pick.
Elizabeth
that's
Banks
good picker too.
for 10 points.
Great.
And what is your final deep cut, Alex?
I'm gonna go from Heat, and I feel like he's not gonna be a ton of points, but he isn't in it a lot because he kind of fucks it up early on. Danny Trejo is in that movie.
Danny Trejo.
Trejo.
Yep. Danny Trejo for 12 points.
Oh, great.
Yep. Wow, this is going to be a tight, at least between second and third. I think it's going to be tight. I don't know if Tommy has run away with it yet, but I think he's got enough lead.
Tom Sizemore killed me.
Yeah. Tim, you have your final deep cut.
So I just had a Jimmy Neutron brain blast, as Tommy put it before. Talk about in it for a little bit here. I am blanking on this gentleman's name, but the Allstate guy is in it. He's the chef that does the drive. He does the driving, and then he gets shot. That's him, right?
The African-American actor...
Oh, Dennis Haysbert.
Dennis Haysbert is in Heat.
Yeah, that's him, and he's in he's in a very little part. It's one of those ones when you're first watching it, you're watching the first hour and a half, you're like, why am I watching this guy?
Yes, Dennis Haysbert for 10 points.
Well done.
Yes, with that very, very distinctive voice that he has as the Allstate insurance spokesperson.
Wasn't he the
Tommy.
president in a season of 24?
Yeah, he's often a president or
general.
When he
I feel
was
like
younger,
he was on a CSI or something too, or one of those CBS kind of shows.
And when he was young, he was often a football player, if I'm not mistaken. That was or a baseball, because was he not in major? I think he was in Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck, Alex, which we've talked about before, and you pretend like you don't know it's a movie. And he was in Japan playing with Tom Selleck, and he actually gets to come back and play for the Tigers. Anyway, long story short, Tommy, it's your final deep cut. I don't think you're going to reach your 94 points, but you've got a very impressive total going here.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go with Training Day. The drug kingpin that they kill is Scott Glenn from Silence of the Lambs also.
And Silverado.
Yeah.
And Bad Monkey.
October.
Monkey, for some reason, as Vince Vaughn's dad. Scott Glenn, worth 6 points.
All right.
Tommy came in hot, cooled off a little bit. All right, before we get into the final points, let's give you a little recap of things you might have missed. Obviously, Training Day, and we got our Denzel Washington, our Ethan Hawke's. Part of like that crew of like old guys that are in the restaurant that they go and have like a meeting with. You got Tom Berenger, Cliff Curtis is in the movie. Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg also appear in the film. Eva Mendes, Alex, one of your favorite movies, Con Air, has Nick Chinland is in Training Day. Nick Chinland is the guy that Nick Cage fights in the bottom of the plane. He's got the letter with the
he's got the put the bunny back in the box guy.
Yeah, it's that guy.
Yeah.
Nick Chinland, Denzel Whitaker, Forrest's son. David Ayer, who wrote Training Day, has a small part in it. And you got Terry Crews. And then an uncredited appearance by Peter Green from Pulp Fiction, who is Zed, and he's also in The Usual Suspects. So Peter Green's a nice guy to pull if you need to.
What was Ava Mendes worth, out of curiosity? Because I had her written down, but she had such a memorable scene that I wasn't sure.
Yeah, she was worth 8, so she wouldn't have changed the game for you. That's kind of like where you were living. Yeah. Heat. Obviously, our big stars: Pacino, De Niro, Kilmer, John Voight. Amy Brenneman would have been a solid cut as De Niro's girlfriend. Did anybody remember Ashley Judd? She's the one with the great ass.
I had it written down.
Oh, yeah.
I had her written down. I thought she was titled. She was titled.
Not a ton of points. McKelty Williamson, who is Bubba Gump, is also part of the crew. Wes Studi is one of the cops. He's from Alex. I mentioned Mystery Men. He is the shadow, or the really like spiritual guy in Mystery Men. You got Ted Levine, Dennis Haysbert, William Fichtner, Tom Noonan.
Of course, Tom
oh.
Noonan. God damn it.
William
Yeah,
Fichtner.
fuck.
William Fichtner's the
I
one.
fucked up with Tom Sizemore. That was such a bad pull.
I think of him. He's also in. He has like the Heat camo in Dark Knight. Like that was.
Yeah,
at
the opening.
Ripping off there at the opening. Yeah, that was the tip of the cap.
Henry Rollins, Martin Ferrero, who I believe is in Jurassic Park, is the lawyer that gets eaten in the porta potty. Tone Loc, Jeremy Piven, an actor by the name of Xander Berkeley, who, if you saw him, you would recognize him.
Xander Berkeley. Oh, Terminator 2. He's a stepdad.
Yeah, he's the stepdad who gets the knife through the head.
Yeah. And Candyman. Yeah.
Yep. Gerald Ford's son, Stephen Ford, is in the movie. I know him from The Young and the Restless when I was a kid. He was always on The Young and the Restless. Paul Herman from Silver Linings Playbook, and Bud Cort, who was God in Dogma when he's not Alanis Morissette. He is Bud Cort. And then lastly, Spider-Man. You got most of the big ones here. Bill Nunn would have been a good one. Randy Savage, you got. The big misses, though, Alex. Lucy Lawless as the punk girl on the street.
Oh, what?
Go look that up. Lucy Lawless, because she's a Raimi kind of person. And then Jesse Hellman. No one would have known him by name, but he's that kid that's in every movie and every commercial. He's got the curly hair.
I was thinking of him. Yeah,
the one from Chuck.
He made out with Bar Raffelli or whatever.
Yes,
yeah. He's the one that got in trouble, I think, for kissing her more than he was supposed to, if I'm not mistaken, for something.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And now you don't see him anymore. But yeah, so well done. Let's hear the points here. I'm going to go Tommy first because I think Tommy has won. But I'm really interested to see if Alex and Tim got close. Tommy, you had 47 points at the halfway point. Octavia Spencer with 15 gets you to 62. 66 with Tom Sizemore. And 72 is your final score with the 6 points from Scott Glenn.
That's pretty
72. Good. Pretty good. Tim, you were at 33 in second place. You picked up 15 from Jim Norton, put you at 48. Natalie Portman with 8 gets you at 56. And Dennis Haysbert
very respectable score.
66. So only 6 points behind Tommy. So that's not too bad. 32 for Alex at the halfway point. Stan Lee gets you 10, 42. Elizabeth Banks another 10, 52. And then Danny Trejo for 12 gets you 64. So 2 points. You and Tim doubled you had the same points at the beginning, at the middle. You each had 33 and 32, and then in the second half, another 33 and 32. Very consistent. Well done.
It's a good game.
So Tommy, were you here when we did this? You were here. You were one of the first times we played this game where the winner, the big prize is you get to pitch us a future guest. The last time you were here, you pitched Simon Pegg. He hasn't shown up yet. Somehow,
good try.
I've tried reaching out to him. He has not responded. Do you think you can think of anyone that might make a good guest? They could be a giant star that we'll never get, or they could be some low-level podcaster like myself that we might be able to get.
Since we just talked about him, I think it'd be hilarious if we got Jesse Himon on. he'd be an easy pull. I feel like he'd be up for any fucking podcast. Like, oh sure, let's go.
I mean, that'd be hilarious.
Put minimum effort into getting that guy.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna write it down because
that takes a you up text. That's all that takes. Is just sliding that into his DMs.
It's like, hey, would you like to be on a podcast? And before you finish writing it, it's like, yes. When are you recording?
He's at your house already. Like, how did you know this?
He's just that.
I brought my mic, man. You ready to go?
Oh wait, so this was the guy. Is this the guy that was in like everything? Like,
like
with the
yes,
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, he always. I think he was on like The Big Bang Theory every once in a while. Like when they would have like a geek party at the comic book store, he was always in the background.
Chuck, I remember him distinctly as like one of the guys that worked in the store. But
they started having him in like every episode of Chuck.
Yeah.
He fits the vibe of that show.
And unfortunately, he fits the vibe of this show too. Unfortunately,
does he?
We're a bunch of good-looking guys.
He's a deep cut.
I mean, I think if he came on and we featured movies that he was in, he would only be allowed to get like half points. Because I think it would be unfair of him to be like, oh, well, of course, I was in that movie.
I remember being on set with X, Y, and Z and pulling some random extra that you're like...
Yeah. He's like, this is the other extra I tried to match with, and then they didn't ask me back for the second day of shooting. Like,
he just keeps pulling himself for 20 points each.
Yeah, just every time. Jesse Himman was on this one.
They're like, damn it. All right.
Fucking Goss again.
Normally, this is the part where I ask our guests if they've got anything to pitch or promote. Obviously, you two do. Would one of you like to tell us where they can find you again? I know you're on Spotify and most other places, but give us another rundown of Haven't Seen It.
Yeah, so Haven't Seen It. We're a podcast where Tim and I, we cover a movie each week that one of us hasn't seen before. You can find us on social media. That's at Seen It Pod. That's on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. Also, we're on Blue Sky. Our username's different there. It's podseenit at .bluesky.social. And then listen to us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Alex, what are you promoting this week?
Oh, I'll give you 5 guesses, Jeff. Support your local rep cinema. Go to your local video store. Support all these things that are great. A lot of good movies coming up in the next 2 months for all like the Oscar windows fitting in for the end of the year. So there's some good stuff. Go check it out.
Cool.
What do you got, Jeff? What are you promoting?
I mean, I've got all our socials where you can find us. Deep Cuts the Game is usually what we're called, something like that. You search for that, you'll find it. I've also got a dog walking business that I'm trying to start, Alex, because I don't want to go back to a normal day job. So you can find me at Barkside Walkers or some stuff like that on Instagram.
That's awesome.
Which I thought was so clever, and I Googled it and didn't see anything else, at least within my area. But it's of course there's going to be other people called Barkside. But then the moment I made it, there was a Facebook, the business had closed last year. And I was like, well, that's not a good omen that Barkside Walkers.
No, it's a good
also
omen because you're taking it over now and you have an existing
Yeah.
customer base.
He had really great reviews. So hopefully I can just piggyback off of that poor guy.
I love that you're I want to just record podcasts that 11 people listen to and hang out with puppies. That's all I want to do until I can retire.
God, what a dream. If I could make enough money walking dogs, it would be a much better life than any other bullshit I can think of.
I was just telling a friend, my last time I was unemployed, I missed treating my podcast like it was an actual job. I'd text him, he'd be like, I just tweeted this and this and this. He's like, cool, dude, I'm at work.
Though I have had a job for many, many, many years, and I'm honestly doing more work on a podcast than I ever did. Maybe that says something to why I'm no longer at my place of employment. But whatever. Fuck them.
Once you stop caring.
Yeah. Exactly. At a certain point, you're just like, fuck it.
Yeah. Alex. This is part of the show where Alex sends me an outro.
I did. I put in everybody's names properly because sometimes I put Jeff. I'm like, winner's name, loser's name, and it's still tricky. But I was able to. We were deep enough into it. I'm like, well, Tommy's gonna win, so I'm gonna put it all in right now. This has been decided.
Well, it was close.
So Jeff,
it was close.
There's a little direction for this one, but I feel like it's a bit easier for you.
Okay.
So because we're still in our noir, I want you to do this one in the style of like a jailhouse snitch who just can't wait to turn evidence on everybody. You could do a Joe Pesci and Lethal Weapon kind of thing, or you could do just any Fredo in every Godfather, just any of that kind of, you know what I mean? That's that.
Oh my gosh,
it's a little
thanks,
long.
And also for making it 3 paragraphs long. So
it was
buckle in, everyone. You can keep yourselves unmuted because usually the best part of this is everyone laughing hysterically at me fumbling over this part of it.
It
so
is a good time.
All right, I'm gonna try to get into character for this one because I feel like there is a visual component that nobody at home will get, but I need to do it in order to play this character for you properly. So bear with me.
Okay.
Look, man, I ain't no saint. Done my time. I'll do more. But I ain't gonna lie about this. I seen what went down. Alex and Tim didn't deserve what happened. It was Tommy, plain and simple. He was the one with the knife, the one who did the dirty work. I was there watching from the shadows. Couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like something out of a movie, a real-life crime thriller. But it wasn't a movie. It was real. It was horrifying. I wouldn't be in this mess if I was just at home listening to Deep Cuts on all my favorite podcast platforms. Let that be a lesson to you. Don't do crimes. Support this podcast. Thanks, everyone. What do you got? What do you say?
For those at home, it was a lot of rubbing Jeff's nose like he was doing so much blow. So good job, buddy. Well done.
Real method acting.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. From Jeff, Alex, Tim, and Tommy, this has been Deep Cuts the Game. We'll see you all next week. Bye for now.